Hey you guys, Stockton here from Better Than Data, and in this video we're going to be going over how to get data from almost any source, whether that be your CRM, your ad platform, your point of sale system, almost any source, and bring that data into a Google Sheet where we can then do so much stuff, and it opens up a ton of possibilities for that once the data is in a Google Sheet, right? What we're going to do is use a very simple tool to get all of the data from wherever you have it, store it into a Google Sheet, which we can then use to process, change, modify, whatever we want there. And then we can use that Google Sheet as a data source inside of Looker Studio to build the visualizations off of it. So we're kind of building this little ETL pipeline, if you will, where we're extracting data, we're getting data into a Google Sheet, we can then format it, we can combine data, we can do whatever, and then we're going to use that as a data source inside of Looker Studio to build the visualizations. So kind of an exciting topic here, and we're going to look at some examples. We are from Better Than Data, where we teach you how to enhance your measurement skills and work with your clients to help them get insights. We've prepared this little quiz for you. If you are interested in going and taking the quiz to kind of see where you are at and what the next step would be, we've prepared segmentation and follow up, kind of a little mini training series to help you from wherever your current step is to enhance that and take the next step. So head on over to betterthandata/quiz to get started with that. All right, without further ado, let's jump into how we are going to be setting this all up. So the way we are going to be doing this is actually using a Google Sheet add-on to make this happen. That Google Sheet add-on is called Mixed Analytics. Okay, so this is what it is. It's very super inexpensive for what it can do and for what the competitors charge. So this is the tool that we recommend. And if you head on over to betterthandata.com, where you see the tools here that we have, you will find under this section here the Mixed Analytics connector. So we have links to all of this stuff here, and we're going to go over this tool because we use it all the time. We love it. And if you want to check out some of the other recommendations we have, you can do that here as well. Okay, so let's jump right into the Google Sheet where we already have it installed, and let's take a look at an example where we are going to get CRM data. So let's go to extensions where we have the connector installed, and we're going to open the API connector. Now this one, we're starting right off the gate with something a little bit more advanced. And this, we're going to have to be diving into a little bit of ActiveCampaign, which is our CRM, ActiveCampaign's developer documentation to make this work. But hopefully we can make it pretty seamless, pretty easy to follow along, and won't get lost. So because there's not already a pre-built connector for ActiveCampaign, we do have to use this custom connector, and therefore we have to follow along some of their developer documentation. So here we are at developers.activecampaign.com, and we need to kind of just learn a little bit how to connect to their API and get the data that we want. So we do see that they are going to require an API token that we're going to have to grab. They will have, a certain URL that is unique to our business. Here you can see your account, so we need to figure out where to grab that. And then I noticed they have some details on pagination and ordering, so that's going to come into play. And then we can see what are all the details here that we actually want to get. So if I look under the contact section, I want to see a GET request, so I want to get not a single contact. So this here looks like it would actually grab a single contact. I want to get all contacts. All right, so it's this one right here. It actually says list, search, and filter contacts. So plural contacts. Here it's telling us what the URL is that we need to grab, and then what the details of the actual request will look like. So let's begin setting all of this up. Inside of the custom request over here, request URL, here we need to put in the request URL, and then because we saw up in the authentication that it wants everything to be provided as an HTTP header named API token, we are going to add that to the headers section here as well. So that is how we are going to do the authentication, so we can actually make a request to ActiveCampaign. So if we go to our settings here, we go to settings, developer, this will give us the URL. And then here we have the API key that we need to add. So let's copy this base URL, come back to our request URL field and paste that in. Then the header, we know it has to say API dash key. Actually, let's verify that. Did I get that right? API token. Okay, so let's just copy that from there, paste in the key, and then we actually need to grab the token here. So let's copy the API key, head back over, and paste in the value just like that. Okay. The next step we can do here is we actually need to specify more what the endpoint is. So we've got the base URL in, but if we go and look at the details of this contacts, so where was it? We need to come back down to contacts, list, search, and filter contacts. So we have the base URL, but now we need to add on API 3 contacts. So let's go copy that, paste it in, make sure that URL is correct. So we got the base URL, then API 3 contacts. And if we were to just run this, so let's set the current cell where we're at as the destination. So set that sheet 1, a cell A1. If we just run this, what I would expect to see is some data coming back already, as is, just like that. And perfect. Actually, we do now see some data, and it looks like we got 20 contacts. Okay, well, we actually have more than 20 contacts, believe it or not. So how are we going to get all of the contacts? And this is where some of those other fields will come into play, like this pagination, ordering, and filtering. One thing to note here is already I can see that there is a limit parameter, and it's saying that there is a by default will grab 20 contacts, which we just saw, but the max will be 100. So just as a test, let's actually add a limit parameter. So let's do question mark limit equals 100, and this should change the number of contacts that we receive from 20 to 100. Okay, just came in. So let's see here, and we do indeed. So we actually got 100. Well, believe it or not, we still actually have more than 100 contacts. So we need to sort of run this request multiple times and use an offset so that every time we run it, if we can only get 100 at a time, we need to run it multiple times, but every time we run it, we need to get the next batch. And so that's where the offset parameter comes into play. And Mixed Analytics has a nice feature called pagination down here. So if we go to output options, pagination, here we're going to choose the offset limit option. The offset parameter is just called offset, so that's really nice. So let's go, offset parameter is called offset. The limit parameter is just called limit. So with those two things, it knows how to do the pagination, so it gets multiple things. And then the limit value stays constant, then will remain at 100. And we actually added that up here, so we can just remove it from up there because now it is down here. So we're going to run it until there's no more details in the email field. So run until the email field is empty. All right, let's run this again and give it a shot. And boom, just like that. It took about 30 seconds, but now we have all of our contacts listed here and not just the first 20 or the first 100. So we actually have all our contacts listed. Boom, bam, that worked. We just used Mixed Analytics to do a custom API call and get all of our different contacts. Let's take a look at one more example. And this time we're going to get some ad data. So I actually want to get Facebook campaign data. Let's do that. So we'll hit create request. And this time there should be a built-in connector for Facebook ads. So let's search for Facebook ads here. Perfect. It's going to go through a login process. I guess actually I'm already authorized, so it's going to use the already existing connection, but let's just disconnect it and go through it again. So we're going to click connect to Facebook. It's going to pop up a little pop-up here so we can connect Mixed Analytics to my actual Facebook account. And it's pretty simple. It's I'm already signed in, so it made the connection for us, and now we are connected. So what do I want? Do I want account insights? Yes. Do I want it for a very specific ads account? Yes, I do. And so to find these ad accounts, I actually may want to do this first so I can see all of the ad accounts that I have access to. And then once I get a list of these IDs, I can use that in this call here. So first, let's get the ad account IDs. Let's run this. Oh, we got to set the current sheet. So sheet 2, cell A1, perfect. Okay, so this now returns a list of account IDs that I have access to. So let's take this one, for example. So I'm going to copy this, and then we don't need any of this anymore. So we're going to find to blow it out. So I'm going to switch the endpoint here. We're going to enter in our account ID, and then we can begin to add in some data. So date preset, let's choose maybe this. Let's choose, as an example, the last 90 days. The fields that we want, I want the campaign name. Actually, I want the ID first. So campaign ID, campaign name, and let's look at the spend just as some fields there. And we can go through all of these different options that they have, which is super nice, and choose the ones we want to add. So I don't think we need to do any filtering. Here, the granularity, we want to see it at the campaign level. The limit, we'll say 5,000 because that looks like it is the max. Sorts, keep everything the same. Choose how to break down the reporting period. We want it by daily. So daily breakdown of the last 90 days. Time range, we already set the time range above. So breakdowns, we don't need to do that. Okay, so let's run this and see what happens. Okay, now that everything has been returned, we have all of our different campaign IDs, we've got the campaign name, and we have how much they have spent broken down by day. So these ones started back in August. And if we go all the way down, the most recent ones should be yesterday's data there. So there we have a nice breakdown. Now the good part about this is because it's broken down by day, when we add this to Looker Studio, that is where the aggregation will happen. So that is where we can tell it to aggregate by campaign ID or campaign name. It'll aggregate the spend for us, so we get a nice daily breakdown of all the spend by campaign inside of Looker Studio. And if we had to do pagination, it would be a slightly different type of pagination where you actually have to use these cursors. Mixed analytics would allow us to do that if you have more than 5,000, right? So the limit of this limit here is 5,000. So if you do have more than 5,000 campaigns returned, because it is, per campaign per day, then you would have to do some pagination. So that is an example of how we would get Facebook ad data. Now let's quickly go and prepare a Looker Studio report with the ad data, just so we can finalize the whole thing, close the loop. Okay, so we're in a brand new report of Looker Studio, and we're going to add our first data source. So to do that, we're going to choose Google Sheet. We're going to choose our spreadsheet. We're going to select sheet 2 because that is the one that had the ad data, and then we're going to hit add. Once the data has been added here, we can begin to add some controls. So we could actually choose a date range control here if we want to be able to break things down up to the last 90 days, which is what we grabbed in the tool. So we could actually grab the last 14 days as kind of the default. But then we can just drag out our spend here, and we immediately have how much we've spent in this ad account in the last 14 days. And we can modify this. So if we chose 7 days, and there you have it. So with this, you could also have other tabs, additional tabs. This one's for Facebook. You can have Google. You can have your Snapchat, Pinterest, all of those different data sources. And once they are inside of your Looker Studio, you can show them individually. You can blend them. You can combine them. You can do all of that stuff to kind of build your executive dashboard, if you will, based on all of the account data. So there it is. That is how we would take it from start to finish, getting the data inside of our our spreadsheet, getting it in Google Sheets, and then adding it to our Looker Studio for a very basic report.